morning to you and welcome to the morning brief. We call it your perfect day starter. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
You know, every day comes with its own flavor, and today it's a two-man flavor.
Yes.
Welcome to this side of the show. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
And I'm sure you're hanging it there as strong as possible because I woke up and realized it was raining now. Like, okay, yeah, that means I really slept. And I woke up and I saw, oh, sounding on my roof. Oh, that's rain. I don't know what it is where they are, where you are, I should say. But it's a rainy season and it's just getting started. We understand this is going to continue for maybe a few more months. And so for everyone, we have to take responsibility. There's a part of government, there's also our own responsibility. So do the much you can. The first phase came and you saw what happened in Lagos, Ogun, Edo State, and other states of the Federation that we may not have had on television. But it just reminds us that nature will always take its course as much as possible. So whatever you have to do so that, you know, we don't have to float on water, avoid any casualty of any form. So when they say go upland, Kayode, yeah, upland, I mean, leave your building, go somewhere else. Right. What does that mean?
Well, so in theory, and this is actually the issue, in theory means go upland, go to higher ground. But practically, most people don't have that alternative, right?
Which is why I asked the question.
Exactly. So most people are even struggling in the lowland they're in, really. I mean, people don't have luxury of having 2 apartments or 3 apartments. Even the little that you have, you're literally struggling to maintain it. So when you hear go upland, it's theoretical for the people who can. But for those who cannot, and that's where it hurts, really, to know that there are a lot of people who don't have a choice. That is their one and only choice. They say plan A to Z. It is that lowland. So you find out that even when the flood comes, sadly, yes, it is not safe. But they will always ask, what alternative do I have? Fine, sometimes you see governments providing, you know, maybe schools or areas for displaced persons as a result of floods. But you know it's never like home. So this is just a reminder, a clarion call, that while we saw that flash floods last week, rather, and a lot of people were complaining and saying we should have done better, but it looks like that has tapered down. People have moved on. Don't forget that we're literally still in the middle of it, and this is not the peak just yet, Jeffrey. October is coming, where we'll get to the peak of the flooding. So are we clearing those drainages? We'll remind you time and again from the government, are you taking action? It's good to see that environmental sanitation is coming back to Lagos. That was a time people really paid attention to sanitation, but of course there was some litigation around it saying it was meant to be freedom of movement and the rest. So it's interesting to see how this will be handled by the Lagos state government. But again, this is your reminder, clear those drainages, dump the refuse appropriately, okay? Don't just toss it into the flowing, drainage and say, don't worry, it will end up somewhere else. No, it will end up clogging the channels. And for government, you need to take the lead. We don't want to hear, oh, we tried our best. No, take the lead. And for times that obviously you can't help it, the people maybe will understand.
I must say to the Ogun State government especially, I always posit the Lagos axis. That's the only way I can describe it of Ogun State. It looks like sometimes forgotten when it comes to the issue of roads and infrastructure. So yet again, I understand the governor has gone to visit some areas and is giving remarks, but the truth is that it's the responsibility of government to ensure that the people are taken care of. Infrastructure is one of your responsibility as government. And also the issue of traffic along the Lagos axis of Ogun State is, I don't know. It's like as soon as you get to the Lagos axis of Ogun State, there's an issue.
The Lagos axis of Ogun State?
I'm talking about from Berger.
The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
Yeah, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, as you're entering through Akute, all of that area is chaos.
And it brings us to the point of fixing roads, which we'll get into definitely on the show this morning. But in case you're wondering, where is Bukola? Yeah, we just wanted you to simmer on that thought. Not to worry, Bukola will be back soon. Just a little bit under the weather, but literally.
The weather came and she went under it, so she's going to come out of it.
So absolutely, you know, this period of the flu, just take some time to rest. And of course, speaking to you as well, take some time out, rest, relax, eat well,
breather,
drink water, because you need it.
Drink loads of it, by the way. Drink loads of water. And another talking point is the issue of the announcement of the Ministry of Livestock Development by the President that generated a lot of talk. It just yesterday, so I'm sure it's going to be a talking point for a couple of days to come. So questions around what does this mean? How will it be differentiated from from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food security, the issue of whether it's even up to being elevated from maybe an agency to a full ministry. Are we going to have another set of ministers, transfer the paucity of funds, the issue of ranching? Is a lot of things. So what are you saying? Talk to us, on X, on WhatsApp. So let's hear your thoughts. Let's have that conversation. It's about national development. So whatever it is you're comfortable with or not comfortable with, we're here to talk about it. But that's not all we're talking about today, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said guys, guy.
It's okay. Bukola is here somewhere.
Somewhere
Bukola, by the way,
brain.
do not watch the show. If you're looking at us right now, go and rest, all right?
That's the idea.
Bukola loves work. But what do we have for you on the show today? It's quite a
Well,
package.
the first one we'll be talking about today, just like we kicked off yesterday, the scarcity of fuel is still a thing right now in the country, blowing across the country. Multifaceted issue requires more than coordinated action on economic, social, political, and even social front. While the removal of fuel subsidy has contributed to the current crisis, the underlying issues of insufficiency, logistic challenges, the blame game must also be addressed. That's the opening conversation for today on the program. So whether it's a mother vessel, daughter vessel, cousin vessel, all the way to the fuel station, to your cars and your generators, we'll find out all of that.
Absolutely. And for those who cannot use their vehicles, particularly because of the fuel scarcity, which we understand may be easing in some parts, they may maybe look to the rail service, which, by the way, is far in between across the country. But you have in places like Lagos and the nation's capital coming on stream right now. So this morning, we'll turn our attention to the rail service. First, how much is it coming through for Nigerians? Total revenue, by the way, from rail services amounted to 2 billion naira in the first quarter of the year. That's according to data from the National Bureau of Statistics. But a substantial portion went into debt servicing. So we find out just how well is the Nigeria Railway Corporation doing. Yeah, it's a vital part of our transportation network. So join us as we hop on the rails.
Well, we're going to go to the lighter side of things, away from railway development, and it has to do with artists for the day, born in Zimbabwe, raised in Ibadan, Nigeria. We're going to explore this person who has a diverse characteristic. No, just watch and get ready as we meet Atlanta.
Right. But that's not all. You can be a part of the show. Quite a number of issues to speak to, and it's a democracy. So democracy means that your voices can, in fact, let me say must.
And must, yes.
Be heard. So here's what you'll do. For any of the major talking points, either it's the new Ministry of Livestock Development that is coming on stream, the fuel situation in your area, if it's about the rains, if it's about the railway, whatever it is, head over to WhatsApp right now. You see that number right there? That is how you can send in your messages.
Yes, I have a relationship with that number. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry about that. So that's the number. Just send messages and videos only. And you can't reach Bukola with that number today. You have to get stuck.
But we'll take the messages.
You're stuck with us in a good way. We'll take a quick break. When we'll come back, we'll bring you your top stories. Join us again. On top on the brief this morning, food insecurity and market exploitation is the center of discussion in the Senate, as the federal government has been asked to tackle the matter with urgency. This single resolution follows a motion sponsored by a lawmaker representing Kogi West Senatorial District, Senator Karimi Sunday. In the same vein, the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who had earlier described the food situation as an emergency, added that the federal government has begun the distribution of fertilizers.
Nobody should come and tell us they will distribute foodstuff from our silos. The silos are empty, Mr. President. So it means we have to import food. And if we have to import, it means we need foreign exchange. And that is scarce. We have to engage with administration.
FOA also indicated that over 32 million people are expected to face critical hunger crisis and emerging level between June and August. We have started seeing it visibly. People are hungry, very, very hungry.
We need the fertilizer now, otherwise it will be useless after this month. It was decided that fertilizer should be given to the senators so that they can distribute to their constituents. For more than 3 months now, we are not seeing a single bag.
I'm re-echoing the voices of the Senate Committee Chairman on Agriculture. Irrespective of political parties, all the states through their governors are getting 60 trucks. The senators are getting 2 trucks, and the 2 trucks are 1,200. And then the House of Rep members are getting 1 truck.
Okay, that's a new one. Let's move on now. Still on the food crisis in the country. This time, the President, Bola Tinubu, has announced the plans to create a federal Ministry of Livestock Development. The President believes this will help to boost agricultural productivity and enhance export opportunities. The newly inaugurated Committee on Livestock will be chaired by the President himself and the former Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Tahiru Jega, as his deputy.
In a situation that is very confusing, I must mention here that I've discussed a number of occasions with the governors. They need to see this opportunity, seize it, let's run with it. From here, are we, at this junction, I will appeal to remove every taint of partisan politics from it. We've identified the model for livestock management. It is done in other countries, in other climes, successfully promoted. It created great economy and empowerment for ordinary people. Traditional livestock system must be reformed to add significant and sustainable value to Nigerian socio-economic growth and development. This presents a unique opportunity also to delineate and establish a separate ministry called the Ministry of Livestock Development. We develop the economy, give people opportunity to excel.
Away from that, it appears that the controversy surrounding the Samoa Agreement is not abating anytime soon, as the motion of urgent national importance has been sponsored by 88 members of the House of Representatives. They're asking the federal government to immediately suspend the implementation of the agreement until all controversial clauses are addressed. Meanwhile, a constitution amendment bill to improve women representation in Parliament through the introduction of special seats, and another introduced diaspora voting skills second reading in the House of Reps.
The phrase gender equality, as reported, is a Trojan horse for deceptively bringing in all sorts of immorality to our country, as gender no longer means sexes, male and female, as traditionally understood. It now includes homosexualism, lesbianism, transgenderism, and animalism.
There is nothing like lesbian rights or gay rights. It is about human rights, environmental protection, and trade agreements, period. How on earth, if you have the agreement, bring it out here.
Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever? Let us concentrate on the issues that matter. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, our people are not interested in this, so let us step it down, let us close it, let us forget everything about it.
Where the federal government is going into an agreement, by the provisions of Section 12 of the Constitution, the Parliament ought to be carried along.
That matter is not over, the Samoa agreement, but the Nigerian Bar Association is stating its position. The NBA says that there is no provision in the agreement which requires Nigeria to accept or in any way recognize LGBTQ or gay rights. A statement signed by the president of the NBA and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Yakubu Maikiu, indicates that the agreement was expressly made subject to local laws and the sovereignty of the contracting nations. Part of his statement reads in part, the Samoa Agreement recognizes, for instance, Nigeria's Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act 2023, and of course the supremacy of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. The NBA says if this were not the case, it would have since advised the federal government not to enter or engage in any form of partnership or agreement that has the ability to undermine the sovereignty of the country in any way. Well, let's move on now. The nation's ivory towers is in the news again as protests rock university campuses across the states in the country as non-teaching staff of universities protest the non-payment of their withheld salaries. The action by members of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, that's NASU, and the Senior Staff Association of Universities, SANU, is in compliance with the directive from the national leadership of the two unions to embark on a one-day nationwide protest. Leaders and critical parties from the oil-producing communities in Imo State, comprising Ohaje, Gbema, Oguta, and Oru East local government areas, have voiced their support to Governor Hope Uzodinma administration's efforts in tackling issues of oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, and insecurity. This was one of the highlights of a town hall meeting organized by the Imo State government through its Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and Intelligence.
The federal government has made it a task that illegal oil bunkering must stop. Two reasons. One is that it's a crime. Second one is an economic sabotage to the entire country. Thirdly, it causes environmental degradation, and the aquatic inhabitant and ecosystem are heavily affected.
The youth of the region have resolved that we will assist the government of the day, the federal government, the state government, in making sure that our place, the oil region of Imo State, is very much free from oil bunkering and illegal refineries.
We are asking the Niger Delta Commission, NDDC, to synergize with the security agencies and the communities.
Since it is Niger Delta and intelligence, we shall continue to partner with you, work together to ensure that our people get the dividends of the blessings the Almighty has bestowed us with.
Moving on now, business relation manager with Zenith Bank PLC, Ifeoma Agbonaya, has told the Lagos High Court sitting in Ikeja how funds were moved from the Central Bank of Nigeria through Zenith Bank to some account linked to Mrs. Margaret Emefiele, wife of the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. Agbonaya, who is the fifth prosecution witness, testified in the trial of Godwin Emefiele and his co-defendant Henry Omoile on charges of alleged abuse of office to the tune of $4.5 billion, I should say, and 2.8 billion naira. The inflows were for services rendered by the companies for CBN. She listed the private companies that received the cash flow from CBN as Lamplight Multi-Dimensional Services Limited, Comex Support Services Limited, Answin Resources Solution Limited, and Mago Farm. Agbonaya also told the court about some of the cash flows from the account received with no objections from the defense team. The court admitted in evidence the certificate of identification and the bundle of printed documents which contained the various transactions the witness purportedly carried out under Mrs. Emefiele's instruction. Justice Oshodi also granted a request by Mr. Emefiele's lawyers to recall the first prosecution witness on Monday, that's Osaswa, for a further cross-examining. The trial continues today, July the 10th. Let's talk business. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, says it's in talks for another oil-backed loan to boost its finances and allow investment in its business. The group managing director of the NNPCL, or CEO, I should say, Mr. Melekari, says this in an interview with Reuters. The NNPC boss confirmed the company wanted a loan against 30 to 35 barrels per day of crude oil production, but declined to say how much the money they are seeking. He said the cash raise would be used for all the NNPC's business activities, including supporting production growth. On the international scene, President Joe Biden has condemned a wave of Russian missile strike that killed at least 38 people in Ukraine as a horrific reminder of Russia's brutality while vowing to strengthen Kiev's air defenses. At least 190 persons were injured across the country, including some at Ukraine's biggest children's hospital in the capital, Kiev. That's on Monday, with Russia claiming the blast was caused by misfiring Ukrainian air defense missile. This comes as President Biden hosts leaders from the 32 NATO member states, their partner countries, and the EU in gathering to mark the 75th anniversary of the bloc. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is expected to attend that particular event. Let's now talk about the exciting world of sports. Defending Wimbledon champion Carlos Alcaraz did recover from a slow start to beat Tommy Paul and set up another semi-final against Daniil Medvedev, which is a repeat of their meeting last year. Medvedev, who defeated world number one Jannik Sinner, will be looking to avenge his defeat in the 2023 last four match that Alcaraz won in straight set on his way to taking the title. Alcaraz was a set and a break of serve down on court on Tuesday against American Paul. The 12 seed but recovered win 5-7, 6-4, 6-2, 6-2 in a match that lasted 3 hours and 11 minutes. Meanwhile, Medvedev had to fight every bit as hard as he could to defeat Sinner 6-7, 7-9, 6-4, 7-6, 7-4, 2-6, 6-3 win in 4 hours on center court. That tally with Medvedev tells you that it was a big fight for them, but eventually he won. So that's a encounter with him and Alcaraz. We're going to look up to that. But those are the stories we've been tracking for you the last 24 hours. Earlier part of the day will form part of our conversation for the show. Coyote joins me now as we talk about some of the things you have been talking about tonight.
Absolutely, Jeffrey. It's also interesting to see what's playing out at the Euros. You know, Spain knocking out France, and we see who wins tonight between England and the Netherlands. So will he come home? If it's not the full football of FIFA, is Euros coming home, and the Copa America as well. Yeah. Canada's run, quite impressive, but Argentina said, you have to end here, okay? Let's take it up from here. But it's quite impressive to see what Canada did at that tournament. But what are you saying about the other stories, sports aside? There's been lots of things really going on. First, of course, is the protest by the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the non-academic staff union, NASU. So there's ASU, right? ASU is academic staff, the lecturers. Now there's the SANU, senior staff members who are not academics, but they're also administrators, they're staff within the university and the non-academic staff union. So they're responsible for power, you know, things like, you know, the infrastructure in universities. Exactly. So they essentially down tool, because they were not in the office, they were protesting. So it was a strike, a one-day strike. So
protest.
Well, it's actually a strike, because I spoke with the president and I was telling him, you call this a protest, but you were not at work. So obviously it's a strike. And he said, well, yes, obviously, because they're not at work. So that's another way to go on strike without going on strike. But what are you saying about this? First user, Collins Opara, that's I'm Collins Opara on X, says, the federal government is still withholding salaries from non-teaching staff after 4 months. That's outrageous. These dedicated individuals work tirelessly behind the scenes to keep universities running smoothly. And this is how they're treated. This user says it is disgraceful.
All right. Maybe you take the next one as well.
On to the next one. This one is from Christopher. Yeah, Christopher Jeremy. There you go. Says, Nawa for us. This is, let me translate. Jeffrey, how do you translate Nawa for us?
Nawa.
You need to get acquainted with the lingo to really understand. But it's essentially saying, wow, are we really doing this? everything must end up in strikes. That's what this user says. But it was a protest, but of course it was also a strike at the same time, a one-day strike, right?
Well, that's what makes our language unique. Sometimes you don't need to know how to translate it. Just understand the language. But for our international audience, more like, what is it again? Kind of. Yeah. So let's talk about the creation of the Livestock Development Ministry by the President. Pato said, to me, all we need is an effective department within the Ministry of Agriculture to be responsible for livestock development. That if we don't have such in place already. Now this ministry, or this new ministry, will have departments and units. They will also have agencies, by the way. In the end, 1,000 and more staff members, civil servants, will be hired and redeployed to the ministry from other countries, or from other ministries, I should say. It will likely increase the number of civil servants and the amount of salary government pays. Shouldn't we be, cutting the number of ministries to cut cost of governance? Good points.
When this announcement came through, Jeffrey, a lot of people went to the Orosoye report, for those who have it, and those who have some, I think, look at, is there a place that the report says
suggests
a new ministry, and they're like, no, actually it says you should shrink and merge some of them. But then it's a classic debate, Jeffrey. So there's been the crisis, the livestock farmers or the herders saying, well, we have freedom of movement, we can move around. And the farmers say, well, you're moving into our farms, and there's been that conflict. Some say it's not even a conflict, it's an onslaught. So we've had this for decades. Will this ministry solve it? If it will solve it, then would it be logical to have a ministry? Lots of questions, but the devil is in the details. So we'll wait to see the details. But take a look at what Annie has to say on this one. Annie Upane says, is this supposed to be a sub-branch of the Ministry of Agriculture? Now take a look at this next one. He, and I imagine you're saying the president, can as well create a Ministry of Plants and Horticulture, as well as a Ministry of Shift Cultivation and Deforestation. I can tell you this, Annie is quite versed in science.
All right, not just Annie's talking. Abdullahi Umar Zama says, what about the Ministry of Agriculture? We're talking about cutting the cost of governance by implementing the Orosoye report. And here is the president creating yet another ministry.
And Smart Chooks, as Ezogu Chukwemeka says, another ministry. And I think there's a consistency with the reactions today that will require budgetary allocation. We should be cutting down the size of government and not making it larger. So this user is pointing to what he calls a major spending problem.
Well, NNPC said they want to borrow the crude for cash yet again. You remember the other one? The 3 point something from Afrexim.
Right.
There's another one coming again.
You know the challenge, Jeffrey. So we have Dangote Refinery, which needs all of the crude it can get. But we've seen that it's been getting WTI, West Texas Intermediate.
All the way from the US.
Exactly. That's about 1/3. They said it accounts for 1/3.
It's cheaper, but the logistics.
So you wonder, Nigeria, we boast of, in fact, our target is 2 million barrels per day. Dangote does it up to 1 million. But obviously, we're not producing as much. And we have other obligations like this that will mean that we cannot cater to our need at home. But,
But some may argue and say, oh, we have the crude, NNPC is taking a share. Now, if you borrow with you get the cash for crude for cash. We don't even have what to give to Dangote. When IOC sell their own to whoever, we start shouting. Okay, Orisegbene Aigbume says they should also create Ministry of Crude Oil Refining, another one for PMS availability distribution, and lastly the ministry to check theft of crude oil. In fact, create a ministry for every issue on ground that the council of misplaced priorities. Lord will deliver us, okay? So you see Nigerians are reacting.
Yeah, and the sarcasm is quite huge. Nedu
big one.
NYC, we'll take this last one on this one, says, at these difficult times, when the government should be cutting costs and reducing the size and cost of governance, says it's quite unfortunate, unnecessary, and called for. So what I want to imagine would happen with this is there should be no extra appointment. There should be no extra ministry created, no extra office created.
No extra minister.
They
already have 2 ministers.
Exactly. So, and I think that's a bit logical. Fine, we know there's a challenge, but you need to work within because Nigerians, for example, don't have the luxury of building a new house, creating a new room. They have to work, or at least work with what they have. So let's work within our means and
optimize the government such that we don't expand and we're owing, we're in debt. We have a lot, we have over 120 trillion naira to pay back. We're not talking about all the subsidies we're paying. We're paying some subsidies, we're not paying some. We're servicing debt. If we look at those numbers, we're going to 150.
Lots of obligations.
Okay, let's talk about that Samoa agreement. The House of Reps, you saw them saying it looks like a lot of them don't want to hear anything about Samoa. They say suspended. They are quoting Section 12 of the Constitution that it should get to the Assembly first before treaties are signed. So they are saying to the federal government, hold on, you can't implement this as much as you've signed. Let's understand all the details. So Chizi Vincent says, thought they said some part of the agreement doesn't apply to Nigeria. Why suspend it?
Humphrey Obajere says, so is this a confirmation to the fact that the agreement contains that ridiculous clause? You saw the spokesperson of the House, or at least one of the leaders in the House, Professor Yobere, saying it doesn't contain that. It does not at all. It
just contains suspicious clauses. Yeah. That's what they're saying. But the NBA says the draft was sent to them. They looked at it. They feel it's okay. Anything that impugns on our integrity and our extant laws or ground norm will not be allowed. But it's an argument for another day. So Chukwuemeka Azubike says, so the fact check was not enough, meaning one truth was in it. Some truth was in it, but how do you suspend something that was signed abroad in front of the EU? What of the money involved? Well, no money involved yet, according to the ministry.
Saraf has this one that's defined Saraf. When they say that LGBT is not contained in the agreement, but by the way, it was originally LGBTI. You're wondering, what are all these acronyms?
LGBTQI now. Is it I now?
In that agreement, what the reference was LGBTI originally, before it was then pulled out because there was a lot of uproar from the. But it just points to the dimension the world is taking right now. So it says, when they say that LGBT is not contained in the agreement, what does the human right aspect of the agreement entail? It is better we nurture our culture rather than destabilizing our society, says God bless Nigeria.
Okay. Kenya. OA says the Ribes are under pressure as to the conditions of the Samoa Agreement, which made provision for the LGBT as contained. Okay, that's not factual. Reasons they are calling for federal government to suspend the agreement. As we said, there are suspicious clauses, Article 2.9, 2.5, Article 29.5, Article 36.2. Those are the controversial clauses. We remember we had that conversation. Yeah.
There you go. So it's an ongoing debate, absolutely. So wait to see what the federal government has to say about this one. But let's talk about something that came out of our interview with the finance.
I didn't even know it ended up in Twitter.
Oh, he actually did. Where she said that 3 of Nigeria's 22 airports profitable, others subsidized. And we joked and said maybe some should be converted to racetracks.
Yeah, maybe they should decommission some.
You know, and just or maybe use them for farms or ranching and all of that. So Nigerians have been reacting. Take a look at this one from Iyabo Awokoya. Says, exactly why, or rather, I'll take that again. Says exactly why we should not be licensing new airports willy-nilly. It's important to put that properly in context. So that's what this user has to say. We should not be licensing new airports.
And that's why some of us are proposing that governors should stop building airports as a bragging rights.
My airport is bigger than yours.
My airport is bigger than yours. Just build an airport for big men to be traveling. That's not the idea of an airport. Hebron Tutsi 61482. Wow. Without government support, most airports in Nigeria will go out of business. I think it's a total failure if 3 out of 22 are working.
It's like you have
lots of
bad
business
and only 3 are working. Naturally,
it's bad business.
You're meant to look into that. So I think there's a consistency with the reactions. People saying we should close many of it, asking why governors are building more. But let's turn our attention to something else. And this one is from the NERC. When Nigerians hear electricity, naturally, it triggers them. It raises them up. You know, because it triggers their curiosity.
We're paying for Gucci light now.
So take a look at what the NERC has to say to Nigerians. And I think we've heard this before, but it's reiterating it, saying, do not pay for transformers, cables, and others. NERC tells Nigerians. So Nigerians in the usual manner responded. Shakiru Oladeji says, paying for these things are the norms in Nigeria. You don't need to ask around, you know it.
We pay for everything. I remember where I was living before, I paid for the cable, I paid for the prepaid, I paid for everything. Igbo Amaka says, laugh out loud, they play. They will ignore you forever if you don't pay. Exactly. They will tell you they don't have They have not sent it from Abuja. But if street contribute to pay them, it will appear immediately.
They call it
express. It's funny, but it's not funny.
Exactly. Any action should go beyond telling Nigerians not to do something. So what are the measures in place to monitor and ensure that whoever does not provide that infrastructure, which of the service providers that does not provide the infrastructure within a certain period is sanctioned? So don't just tell Nigerians. Nigerians are helpless here. They need you to help. So there should be a framework. If you do not provide the infrastructure within this period, there will be sanctions.
Be a reporting channel or
exactly.
something.
It should be as simple as that, not tell Nigerians. Take a look at what Gabriel, one Isaiah, has to say, and it reiterates what people have been saying. Any community that refuses to pay is not ready to enjoy light. Can they charge the electricity distribution company to court? So that's a question. Who should they complain to? It's easier said than done.
I think we need to have NEC back on the table.
Yeah.
So because I've spoken to the is it the vice chairman?
Yeah.
We need to have the gentleman back on the table. Daya Jibade says, laugh out loud, they should just do an agreement where they convert what they contribute to buy the transformer and cables into power units for them, because the discos won't provide anything.
Okay, that has a tone of finality, but we need to just look at these things. What is right, what is not right? I know that we're not operating in the ideal a lot of times, so we need to ensure we fix this. Next up is road infrastructure, yet another pain point for a number of Nigerians, but this time in Ogun State. And well, the statement was credited to the governor, Dakwa Abiodun, saying that no administration can fix Ogun roads in 8 years. Now, some said this is what other governors want to say, but they're not able to say it out, that I can't fix all the roads in 8 years, but they're trying to be politically correct. But it looks like the Ogun State governor is biting the bullet this morning. So take a look at what Aremu Benjamin Jimoh has to say. Says, well, I think this is unfortunate. So no government can fix Ogun roads in 8 years, but they can collect taxes for same 8 years, right? Whew, that's the first one there.
I knew that statement is going to get him a lot of flax. Yeah. Whether it was right to say it or wrong, is going to get him flax. Fix the road is your job. There is no excuse. Fix the road, the ones you can fix as much as possible, because there are Tony roads, Shango Tado, Abeokuta, this area of Akuta. There are places you do, and it will show that some things are happening, because these things have been there. It's not magic.
Right.
So that's why people are hitting hard on him.
There's a classic debate. So resource allocation. They say that the needs are not, they're infinite, but the resources are obviously finite. So how do you decide which is, what's that, scale of preference, or what's that thing called right now?
Okay, sometimes. So for instance, now, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is one of the most commercially viable roads in the entire country.
Right.
So if it goes bad, it should be a priority. So I'm sure in every state they have those kinds of roads. So when those kinds of roads are bad, you know, just like what the federal government is doing with the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, the first 49 or 47 kilometers will be the most viable. May actually bring back all the returns on the investment. There are stretches of that road that are not necessarily viable. So they are focusing on that to get it out as quickly as possible. Yeah. But they need to make their money back. That's how you prioritize. Okay, Mother Earth says, is it really that hard? If the job is too big for you guys, then don't take it up. There are millions of people who want to lead too. You all campaign with all manner of, in his word, deceit, not mine. When elected, you start complaining.
Well, Power Mode is next. Says at least he should try and fix the ones that are very cogent and urgent.
Exactly.
So I think it ties to the point we're making, have the priority areas. We understand that there's a lot to be done, but again, you know, it's quite interesting. Yes, we say resources are limited. But when people look at those in governance across the board, they see the lifestyle. They wonder, these resources don't look like they are.
Resources are limited. One of the biggest pointers under this administration is what the FCT did with 20-something or 21 billion to spend on the vice president's residence. That's what the economists called the moral hazard of emotionally unintelligent expenditure. When you do that, you can't defend there's no money. You cannot. It's difficult. All right, this person says, Olani online says, I'm also fix some roads, especially in Abeokuta, Shagamu, and Ijebu-Ode areas. He said that Abiodun is only giving excuses. That's the governor now.
Well, the government will also tell you the number of kilometers they've fixed so far. Exactly. We had a conversation with one of the officials, and he actually pointed out to some of the roads being fixed. But clearly, there are more roads that need to be fixed. And Oba Rems re-echoes that, saying he needs to fix those roads. They are very, in fact, they're like
maybe you put that tweet up. That X.
Varies.
They're like,
they are very
1, 2, 3.
bad.
Very, 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 very. I wish that. So, you see the number of very. This guy, what are the? Well, you know, I guess he lives in Ogun State.
Yeah.
We don't live. We live on this axis of Ogun State. All right. Okay, guys. Those are the thoughts we've been tracking from all the issues you talk about. So. We always promise that whenever you talk on X, we go out there, look out for it, and bring it to the fore to amplify your voice. Your concern is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people at the end of the day. So people always say, Kayode, how come when it comes to election, no matter how remote the area is, INEC will find a polling unit? But when it comes
the politicians will get there.
Yes, will get there to campaign. But when it comes to delivery of dividends of democracy, as we call it, we hear some stories. But you know, let's put hands together with the government as well as to do the best they can to deliver for us as well. But everybody must take responsibility. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, maybe we'll start with that conversation around livestock transformation. No. Ministry of Livestock Development.
That's it. The livestock transformation plan.
Yeah.
The previous administration.
We'll catch you.
Stay with us.
From the president's mouth to our listening ears, there was an announcement yesterday that has generated talking points. A new ministry has now been announced in the agricultural sector. It is called the Livestock, Ministry of Livestock Development. So people are asking loads of questions. What does this mean? How is it different from the Ministry of Agriculture? And does it deserve a status of a ministry? There's a lot of questions. So we're talking to the people today who are in that space. We're being joined on the program via Zoom by Mr. Ayuba Umerano, is the National Organizing Secretary of Amalgamated Union of Foodstuff and Cattle Dealers of Nigeria. Mr. Rano, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning. Good morning, all. Thank you.
I want to get your first reaction to this particular news.
We're really excited and we're really happy. And this is a new development for the new initiative of the Bola Tinubu Ahmed government. This is a real development, actually.
Well, this development, by the way, is livestock development. So on both angles, you're correct. But this development has, well, caused a lot of uproar from Nigerians. It's elicited uproar, I should say. Some saying, why are we creating a new ministry? That means we'll be spending more, most likely. Why are we really doing this at this time? Will we create ministries for every other issue we've faced? But you say this is a good development. So I'd like you to speak to those concerns that people have in terms of cost, in terms of the timing, and the rest. Do you consider those as an issue as well?
Yeah, we consider that as a new burden to the government in terms of the financial duty or in the financial activities. But we realize that if the government work directly in this sector, it will bring what the Nigerians are in need. Because it's daily consumption things that happen every day in Nigeria. What I mean is the consumable things that Nigerians are in need of it, instead of importing it. Nigeria are losing much out of the business in that respect. So once Nigeria is concentrating on it, it will help them by not importing anything from outside of the country. The related of the milk, the related of even meat, in other food processing activities related of that line. So I look at it when the ministry is being managed properly, it will work at the Nigerian, the way Nigerians are in need of it. Actually, I don't look at it as a burden to the government or as a financial burden to the government, but I look at it as a development because there is so many things that has to be cared properly and it is utilized.
So the question a lot of people are asking, rather than create, because of the paucity of funds and the too many ministries we have and trying to cut cost of governance, like you've alluded to, did the livestock subsector require a full ministry as far as this is concerned? Shouldn't we have created maybe an agency and make it as robust as possible? Because now the ministry, a lot is involved. Departments will be created, agencies will be created, and all of that. Mr. Rano? Mr. Ranif? All right. As soon as we establish that connection again. Mr. Rano, are you back? Oh. Okay. We're also being joined in the program by Mr. Femi Oke. He's the Southwest Chairman of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Joins us via Zoom. Mr. Oke, good to see you yet again on the program.
Yeah, good morning, viewers at home and the panel there.
Yeah, apologies. I'm sure we dragged you up from bed this morning to come and talk about it because at the end of the day, it's an important conversation. Let's get your take, just like I got it from Mr. Rano, on this new development by the president, because I know the last time we had a conversation, you sounded like there's an urgency that is required in the agricultural sector. Does this meet up that expectation of urgency?
Yeah, it's not a... to we stakeholders in the agri sector. Some time ago, we've had a meeting with all the sector in this agriculture about this livestock. The meeting was held in Abuja, and that was one of our conclusions. So hearing that from the our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to bring in the new Minister of Livestock, is just to ease the bottleneck work on the Minister of Agriculture. Some years back, we've been hearing much about the others' problems, and we now decide that it should be decentralized. And if it's being created, at least it will give more rooms for the robust in the food in the system. So it's a welcome development to we farmers, and it's not a new news to us at all. We've been expecting it much at that. So that is a joy to we farmers.
So it's quite interesting. It looks like the farmers, at least judging from both of you, you are receiving this well. But the average Nigerian out there, judging from some of the comments we've seen, they're not receiving it well. So maybe you can try to convince those ones who are not receiving it well, who think that this is going to be wasteful spending, bloating the government that they think is already over bloated, and all of that. So how do you convince those people? And I'm asking you yet again, Dr. Kesemo, I asked Mr. Rano.
Yes, like I said in my last interview with you, we need a lot of sensitization to the populace. Most of what we are doing, especially what government is doing, is not being known. And that is the area where the area of some agencies that have to blow up what is really on ground. They have to come on board. Like I said two days ago that I was there are some agencies that were concerned to really release or let the populace know what is really happening. Like to this one too, I think it was late December last year that we had the meeting in Abuja there. Professor Atairu Jega was even the host there, and a lot of our stakeholders in the agri sector. And it was part of the conclusion that at least how do we end this farmers' herders problem? And it was on the very many things was being highlighted. But is the news take it? How many news? How many people got it? It is now that the Mr. President decided to now bring it into the fold, that people are now talking about it. And that was what I was saying, that every stakeholders we always come together to have a communicate of what is really going to happen. And by the time we have been, journalists and press people have been able to carry it out, it will be a sort of unaware program that is just coming up.
Right.
So we farmers are happy, and there is a thing of joy to us, and we believe if we end the farmers others all these banditry to end with this new.
Right. So maybe we should also get a sense of how this might be operationalized from you? Since you said this has been in the making, so what is the thinking really? Because people have asked, so will there be a ministry for planting or for plants or plant farmers, as the case may be? So how is this going to work, particularly because the agricultural sector has quite a number of sub-sectors, will I say, in it? So what is the operationalization going to look like? Would there be, I don't know, would the government now be providing ranches for the farmers, or for the livestock farmers rather, or they will still be the ones to purchase it? How will this be operationalized?
Well, most of these, like I said, it was being highlighted in our last communique that we concluded at the last meeting we had in Abuja. Definitely, most of the governors will take measures to end the clashes there by having a clusters areas where farmers will assemble and treat their cows or livestock, and some other things we come up that will ease the problems of these herders, farmers conflicts. So that is the major thing of which, and I'm sure by the time the ministry start to come on board, we see a lot of ease, a lot of from that sector, because we are looking at, like I said the other day, I said, okay, let us even look at the ratio of the amounts being allocated to the Ministry of Agri. Is it up to 2%? Is it up to? It has never exceeded 3.5% ever since for years. So definitely, if some has been is being allocated and other things, so it will go a lot of to ease the problems of we farmers. So let us start from there. I'm sure it will go well, and Nigerians will even love it the way it is.
All right, let's take it to Mr. Rano. If we can, Mr. Rano, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you now better. Okay, so the same question we asked Mr. Okay. How will this, because this is at the core of it, how will this solve the problem of farmer header crisis?
I look at it that this ministry will be created, and it has a synergy with other ministries to work together. So I look at it that when it was concentrated on that particular issue, it will give a full attention. So what I want Nigerians to know is that Mr. President give a full attention to that sector now, and which is the major challenges in the Nigerian factor of food security issues. And if it is a ministry, it will give a full attention. So what I'm trying to convince is that now Nigerians are now likely to get the concentrated ministry in that particular sector. So I look at it this way, actually.
Okay, the operationalization of it is, I think, has been one major point of contention. So tell us, what are the expectations that you have, maybe that's another way to put it, that you have from this ministry in terms of coordination, provision of, like, call it infrastructure for the livestock farmers? What are your expectations for this to work well?
I want to, my expectation is that now this ministry to concentrate on these two issues. First of all, in the rearing and the fattening sector, and the clashes on the issue of the farmers and headers. On the other side, in the business sector, I look at it in the business sector because I'm in the business sector line. I'm the merchant from the northern part to the southern part of the country of the livestock, actually, which is in the daily activities of it. And we are assisting people to consume this food or to consume these items or our product in an easy way. So if the ministry is concentrated by clearing this or by making this to be easier, as my brother colleague said, that easier doing business, I'm sure it will help the populace, it will help the Nigerian. So this is what I'm trying to explain on the issue of question.
Okay. So do you expect the provision of ranches, for example, from this ministry? By the way, the states will also have a role to play. Now, whether or not some states are willing to play is another debate entirely, because even for the bill for ranching in the National Assembly, you had a lot of debate, and they had to say, you know, let's have a national parlay on this, because some are saying, well, what if states don't want to participate in it? Should you force it upon them? So tell us, do you expect provision of ranches? Do you expect strict compliance? What about herders that still say, I don't want to be a part of this, I still want to go carry my herd from state to state? Do you expect that to be a thorny issue in the implementation of this?
Yeah, you see, the implementation of under the national body, as a national body, it will be better than to manage it under the state issues. Because there are a lot of problems in the country now. Each state has its own issue on the farming and the cattle issues. So I look at it this way, that to handle it under the ministry, not in the state ministry or in the state issue, it will be better. And I'm expecting it to be a good result from that side.
Mr. Okay, so that particular highlight of ranching is one of the main issues. And the question being asked most of the time is, livestock is a business, it's a private enterprise. Why should government be getting as involved as it is getting involved in, which is one of the controversial elements of all of this at the end of the day, because there will be budgetary allocation, perhaps interventions and all of that, because other subsectors may be agitating as well, which is why we're asking, will it really solve the problem?
Yeah. What Nigerians need to understand is that now, the livestock is just like a petroleum. The livestock is just like a petroleum, which is managed by the government. What I mean is the government has a lot of concentration under that. So the livestock is a consumable item by every day. What I mean, all Nigerians are in need of this product. So if there is a need for making these things to be easier and cheaper to Nigerians, Nigerians need to have a very cheap items now. What I mean, foodstuffs and other things, very cheap. What I mean by the logistics, by the transportation and other things that comes off to make this to be very costly. So this is our expectation in the business sector. And Nigeria has to show a sign of interest of what Nigerians are in need. Nigerians are in need for consuming these livestock issues. And at the same time, it's very costly by the production, by the feeding, by the managing, even the transportation issue. As I told you that we have a lot of issue in the multiple taxation issue. And this multiple taxation issue is affecting the business. Because if you take your goods from Mubi to Port Harcourt, you spend not less than 1 million naira along the road by the hoodlums along the road. And if there is a ministry, it will take care of this. And the government are agitating every day on the food security issue. And we have been in this issue for multiple taxation for a long period of time. And not only livestock, even the foodstuffs, again, it's effective because there are a lot of, apart from the transportation cost, it will give you a cost of what we mean by multiple taxation. So that is good for Nigerians to have things very cheap. If you are buying from far away to down there, you get it very cheap. And this thing is happening every day. And the loss of life, a lot of loss of life. So, and the government is showing interest actually on this, which is making these things to be happening. Thank you.
All right, let's take it to Mr. Okay. Mr. Okay, let's bring it to you as well. The same question for you.
To buttress what my colleague was saying is a welcome development of which I said. During the Western region, if you could remember vividly, in Ibadan, there was a place they called Fashola. It's not a ranching area per se, but the late Chief Awolowo decided to have that place to ease the problem of these moving around all these cows and things. And the place was there. Coming in of our military era that time, they could not do much in this area. And the area was life value, almost moribund until this government of your state just came on board to have something doing. But with this ministry now, this area will bring the Southwest even together. They have to work there. There are sectors there. Very many things are moribund and you do. So it's not a matter of every state to partake, to have their own. No, Ruga is not the issue. Bringing the cow is not, but they have done a place like a segregation where the some regions can start breeding, can start having their own. And when we talk of livestock, and every household take it, it's just like the staple food of rice. There's no house we get to and discover there is no person eating the rice there. At worst, they are little kids. So it's the same thing in the livestock that we are talking about. So that was why I decided to taking you to that or your state of what is really happening there. And I'm sure by now, with this assistance of this new ministry, the place will now come on board instead of it to be lying fallow. Look at the price of feed, look at the price of chicken, look at the price of egg, which has not been in existence. So definitely it will come down. It will be like a research institute. It's almost like a research institute. And people will be trained there. Then we will now have our own breed instead of depending on the other neighboring country bringing their own cow. So those are part of the assistance of this, of what I think this ministry will now come to bring on board. All right, Mr.
Femi, thank you so much. Mr. Femi, okay, is the Southwest Chairman of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, as well as Mr. Ayuba Umarano, the National Organizing Secretary of the Amalgamated Union of Foodstuff and Cattle Dealers of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, my brother. Yeah.
All right, we'll continue to follow that story. It's barely less than 24 hours since the announcement was made by the president. The details are still sketchy, so when we get more details, we'll be able to have maybe more robust conversation. But these are the initial reaction to the issue of Livestock Development Ministry. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the railway development. Join us again.
Every thriving economy across the globe has at its transportation heart the rail service. And as I say, you can literally take this to the bank. So how well are we doing in that light, ensuring that our railway across border, at the federal and state level, is doing well the way it ought to? Well, you probably have the answers, but let's take you behind the scenes, particularly for the Nigerian Railway Corporation. We have on the show this morning the Managing Director, Mr. Fidel Okiria. He's right here with us in our Lagos studio. Good morning, Mr. Okiria. It's good to see you.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Well, now that there's petrol scarcity, or at least price hike, a lot of people will naturally be choosing rail service where it's available, maybe for interstate anyway. So I don't know if you've seen a hike or a spike, not a hike, in the patronage in this period. But I want to link first this conversation to the one we just had right now, because I know from time to time you have livestock on rail tracks. Some of these things happen from time to time. So I don't know how you're receiving this. Is this also in line with some of your recommendations to ensure that we don't have some of these things on our rail tracks and by extension have accidents or mishaps?
If we go back, and I don't want to call it dark days, the means of transportation, apart from food, was camel.
Mr. Birdie.
Yeah. So, as technology evolved, we moved to bicycle, people carrying people on trolley. Then you have the rail from what do you call it now? The steam engine, diesel engine. People are electric engine. Then people are talking about compressed natural gas now. So the route of that movement, where the designers took off from to have the rail line, which we call the permanent way. And in the developed world, I tell people, how do they have stable electricity? Stable electricity came along because they also follow the same pathway with rail. Telecommunication was also housed by rail when we were using the cable depots, and we find it easier to protect them. And because it's required for logistics and movement, it has to be up and it has to be on. Right. So that's why you see Europe, America, they are where they are now. And if you look back, people used to stay in their maze through the rail. The coach used to have a hole. You just come, you drop your mail, somebody is in there sorting it, and by the time you get to the town. So you can't move away from the routes of the heads, or what do you call them, the men, where they use their, those days they also have the route of where they should go. But as we develop, I think we should also copy what they are doing all over the place. You have ranches. Yeah. You don't longer have beasts of burden moving up from place to place. Yeah. They should be, it's a good development, and the rail should not leave them behind. If you get what I mean.
You can actually use them to transport. Is that even something you're thinking?
So, yes, because we have brought in some wagons that can move livestock.
Interesting.
Modernization, they were assembled at Kajola. I know we are having a partnership of someone who want to take the 15 of them to Itakbe, so that when they come by road from the north, they can move them by rail from Itakbe to South Warri. Yeah. And that we also reduce, because by the time they go on our path, on our route, they are tempted to remove one or two things on the track. So if we can avoid it, it will pay us.
So that's quite interesting, because I like that we're thinking ahead, and this will help the economy at large to harness all of those resources. But let's talk about just how viable the railway sector has been. I know that you've recorded an uptick in passengers. I think that was recorded in Q1, so it's welcome development. But in terms of the revenue it's generating to the economy, and that's always been a sore point. Are we generating enough to say, okay, this is a viable business, particularly because debt servicing amounts for a huge chunk of it? So as we are today, how viable will you describe the railway that you oversee?
I'm an engineer by profession. And I've never worked elsewhere apart from rail. I graduated 85, joined railway 87. Where we are now is as a result of government trying to make money instead of trying to make people and their people comfortable and have means of moving without that inconvenience. Government is not a business. It is the God. After God is government. What is God making from the air we are breathing? What is God making from the water we are breathing? But when I joined government, I don't think it was just making money. But time we start introducing business schools, business that to turn government into business making, and the people who put the government look at it as a source of get their life better, instead of making the life of the general people better. So you are not developing means of transportation because you want to make profit in terms of naira kobo, because the profit will come by a lot of it indirectly. By that, if you are able to move goods and make sure that we link Abuja to Lagos, Kano to Lagos, where you have the Port Harcourt, the indirect naira agobo may not be earned by the government, but we flow into the economy, and it will develop the commerce we grew. But when you now say, I want to buy a locomotive, you want to say, when are you going to recover it directly? That MD, Nigerian Railway Corporation, when are you thinking you will get that money back? It doesn't work like that. Otherwise, your father will not pay your school fees. I don't think whether he has recovered the amount he used in training you. Because
so Mr. Korea, this is like making an excuse for not making profits. Or because the reason I'm asking, part of the debt we're dealing with comes from the railway sector. Because of, I remember Honorable Minister Rotimi Amechi, who brought a lot of revitalization of the sector, a lot of investment. And railway is not cheap by any standard, whether it's the construction and all of that. So people would naturally say, well, in a long term or in a short term, not just like the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, we had the minister here and he told us, less than 20 years, we should make a return on investment if we're putting in 18 to 15 trillion at the end of the day. So should we not also expect that from the railway as well?
I'm not part of that school. That is deceit. After 5 years, the amount you spend on the Lagos-Ibadan, go on it now. It's already having some failures. I tell you, 5 years, you come back and do it. So what should be important is making life comfortable for the people. No excuses. I'm a straight person. Anybody who tells you, even in the US, that is capital of capitalism, that rail is handled by businessmen, government still have a vote for those businessmen. Why do you talk about bailout? You have your company, and it's not going well, government come and make sure that your private business does not fail, because it's providing a sort of relief, indirectly to government, because those companies are providing jobs, opportunity for their citizens. So if you now say because you want to make profit, you calculate how much you are going to make, that's when you want to link my village. My people should be able to move from using rail to Lagos. It's not going to work like that. There is an instance of a country where a rail service was being provided because of two people using it to school. They made another track by cutting that place, and they look at it. So how many passengers do we take from this place? They look back and say, okay, there are two people who are using that place to their schools, and they continue to run it. So I don't want to be too hard this morning, because
you can go as hard as you want. We're here to ask you the hard questions as well.
Yeah. You do a rail, a locomotive, $4.5 million. Let's check it. And it's not there that when you go start hacking, you have to do it according to your design. There are some that are up to $12 million.
So just to expand the conversation, Mr. Korea, on this one. So it looks like it's generally for public good, beyond just profit-driven. So
there is profit in it, but it's not the operator that gets it. You, if there is a rail service coming to your station.
Which is bringing me to my question. We just had a conversation with Mr. Rano, who is in the livestock sector. So we should be expecting things like moving cattle, moving petroleum products.
Yes.
That will really make sense at the end of the day, because I understand what you're trying to explain. But what is the plan to that effect?
I've just told you, like when we are modernizing the Kajala wagon assembly plant, we built 15 wagons for livestock. And maybe in the next 1-2 months, it will be deployed from Itakpe to Warri, because that's where we have gotten somebody in order to drive the economy, and in order so that we don't just go 000. We are partnering with somebody who is going to pay to move the wagons to Itakpe. Otherwise, it should not be that person's responsibility, because he's going to recover his money, and the cost is not what naturally, if the government, if we have the fund to move the wagons to Itakpe, he will charge. He's going to charge more than what if we have that enabling this thing to move it to Itakpe. And by the time you add the cost of the private businessman, the cost of the cattle getting to the market will be up. And for you to get the beef in the market will also be up, which will not be the duty of government. But the duty of government is to make life more meaningful, more because your income and expenses have to balance.
Right. So essentially from next month, as you say, that some of the herders or livestock farmers can use that service.
Yes.
So they can always reach out to the...
Not every rail line from Itakbe, because that's where
I know
Itakbe to where?
Worry.
To Worry. So they can reach out to
it's
the
about 302
railway.
kilometers.
Right. So they can always reach out to you and then you'll provide the framework and how to go about this, I believe.
They reach out to us, but as I've said...
Okay, when I say you, I mean the railway corporation, not you as a person.
Yes.
Okay, so I like to talk about, the other, because the goal is to really connect the nation. I dream of a time where we're able to move around the nation via rail. I know there are now plans for Ibadan to Abuja. Am I correct?
You're very correct.
They're seeking government loan from the Chinese, the Chinese government to do that. I think in the region of over $1 billion or thereabout, or what is the costing for that? So give us a sense of what to now expect in the coming months regarding the rail infrastructure. What do we have on ground and what are we hoping to add to it such that we have mobility across the nation?
What we have now is that we have the colonial track, 3,505 kilometers, Lagos to Kano, Nguru, then Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, and Kaduna to Kafanchan. Then we have the modernized track, that's the standard gauge. We have the 1067, that's the old narrow gauge. Then we have the modern
standard
track, 1435 millimeter. Lagos to Ibadan, the new one. No, we have the old one too. Which we are still running. Is up and running. Abuja Kaduna, about 187 kilometers, is up and running. Itakbe Worry, that was taken over by the last administration, that started about that. It's 34 years old now. Is up and running, 302 kilometers. And recently on the Eastern Corridor, the reconstruction from Port Harcourt to Aba have been completed and we have deployed it.
So is it running?
Yeah, we are running Port Harcourt to Aba.
At what percentage? Fully? Is it running fully now?
It's running fully. So we are doing one up, one down.
Okay.
That's part of the Lagos-Maiduguri line.
Port Harcourt-Maiduguri line,
yes,
on the old narrow gauge. So before COVID, we're trying to ensure that we link Itakbe to Abuja. If you link Itakbe to Abuja, which means you have linked Worry to Kaduna.
Right, because you can take from Abuja then to Kaduna.
And if you do that, I call that the DG, those who play draft. You know what you call the DG line. If you have a DG line, you can always connect for any place. So I am praying and hoping the government take that as a very cardinal point to ensure that we link Itakbe to Abuja. Because Kano to Kaduna is coming. Last week, the minister and some team from National Assembly rode a train from McAfee to Kano, and they are working seriously now to link McAfee, Zaria, Kaduna, which means Abuja to Kano would have come on, the standard gauge would have come online. And if we now link Itakbe to Abuja, Worry to Kano, that's south to north, would have come online. Then the next, we already had a contract, Lagos to Kano. Then because of scarce resources, it was segmented. Okay. That's where you have the Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja, Kaduna coming in, and Kaduna, Kano.
I want to now speak to the infrastructure and then the how well we've been able to own it? Because a lot of the technology is being provided from China and brought in. They bring expertise as well. I know that there's training of engineers. I think we received about 72 of them back in the country. But is that enough? Because if we were to just, let's imagine, sever ties with China, something happens and we say, you know what, we're going our separate ways. Can we sustain the railway? Can we say, we'll be fine? Is that something that we can say boldly?
Railways in Nigeria is over 100 years. And they are manned by men, Nigerians. Nigerian built Bauchi to Maduguri without any foreign help.
How many years ago?
50, in the 60s.
Exactly. But today, can we do that without the help or without the technology?
Technology required.
I'm a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer. I can build a locomotive if I have the resource. My men now can bring everything down here and reassemble it.
So why aren't we doing that?
Nigerians.
So why aren't we doing that here?
You see, in GE, their vote for research and development is almost like Nigerian budget.
So funding is a problem.
Yeah. So how much is the railway budget that you see? The issue there is not whether even the Chinese that are here, when they have critical issues, they can't fall back on our engineers because they are used to machine putting it down and removing it.
We were still doing the manual one.
You can't say manual. There are experience you gain from doing something from scratch than somebody who
just relies on
everything is just there. You now come to a situation like in Africa where you need to do it from scratch.
So I'm sorry, my apologies, sir. I'm wondering how because there's a funding that has been earmarked, 1 trillion naira, which is construction and household support. I know that the Port Harcourt Maiduguri gauge is involved in that, mentioned in that. I know that the Lagos, I think Kano standard gauge was also mentioned in that. How far-reaching will that funding be? How much are they earmarking exactly for it?
I don't know. If you see, earmark is different from availability.
That's why I use the word loosely. Because you're talking about funding. So
about
this has
what we require now to complete the project is about $56 billion.
50 what?
$66 billion to link as planned in the rail development plan. So Abuja, Lagos to Kano, the former president Olusegun Obasanjo, was a direct contract of 8.7 billion. It was a contract. Then virtually say no funds, so we fund counterpart 15%, contractor socio 85%. And all this rail can be built in 3 years. And we start enjoying the benefit and the fruits.
Okay, so let's talk about a couple of other things. There are a couple of things. We're happy we've not had incidents of security breach. So what has been done right? Because we're grateful that has not happened in a while. But we also had the issue of derailment. It seemed to be a recurring a couple of times now. So what happened? So that we'll get the facts from the man.
You see, we've not had a major security breach, but we have people still tampering with our track. The recent derailment happened at points, similar situation. The last one that happened in Kaduna was on that train because the minister director should monitor and properly find out as a rail person. As God will do it, the train that entered derailed in that similar.
But why are you on board?
You're on board. So I could see firsthand and could provide solution as a rail technocrat to it. It's not what I say. We have to provide additional security, which to ensure that even when they breach it by what is placed in normally, we have to secure it. And that's what we are doing all over, and to ensure that men are now at that point when the train is coming to ensure that if it's tampered with, you stop the train. That is not what a normal operation should be. But we have provided some little technology, like we have camera inside the train. We have to have camera outside the train, about panoramic camera, so that can cover about 1 kilometer. For a train driver to stop, it requires about 800 meters to stop. So.
Quite interesting. In spite of the teething challenges, by the way, some people still have an issue with your argument regarding, the rail service not being for profit and all of that, particularly when they see the huge monies borrowed, to do that, and they expect that, we pay back. But always an ongoing debate. I'm sure next time you come, we'll still ask you that same question and seek to get clarity, because we need to get value for the money we borrowed. But I speak to issues around ticketing. People say they buy ticket and they don't get the refunds when they are meant to on a certain day. Some say that sometimes the air conditioning is turned off and they have to open the window in business class. And these are some of the things people put out there. I know you have a handle, but how responsive are you? And particularly for those refunds and the infrastructure within, what is going on?
You see, we don't need to pretend. In our culture, our tradition, somebody that is not willing to travel buy the tickets. There's nothing like boarding like you do in the plane. And for instance, if 50% of people buy the ticket and did not travel, that day you have lost. That's it. So it's not only in Nigeria, it's all over the system.
So no refund for them?
No refund. No refund.
What if the service
in our acts.
What if the service?
No, if the service is not provided, okay, you can use it. But once the service is provided, because that's it you have, nobody else will take that seat. Because now we have deployed electronic ticketing. You can, before we started, say 12 hours before. Now we are talking about 72 hours. You can plan your journey 72 hours and buy a ticket. So, and you are not going to tell us you are not going to travel. So if you are buying the ticket, let's say for within Lagos, I think it's 1,500. And maybe 100 people bought that ticket and they did not come back to use it. And you want to use it tomorrow. And that thing was not available for another person.
Okay. So if there is an urgent, and I like asking this question so that to help government with prioritization, because of paucity of funds. So we need to know where we're throwing our monies to get the results we want to get. So for the real sector, if you're talking to President Bola Tinubu and there's something you want him to do as urgent as yesterday, what will it be? Nigerians may like to know.
I'll ask him to connect Itakpe-Warri, connect Lagos to Abuja. I'll continue to work on the Eastern Corridor, because now, if you connect Itakpe to Abuja, and we are no longer exclusive.
Right.
Anybody can come in. You can look for the shortest distance to the state capital of your state capital, and the state can come in. It's almost close to every state.
Okay.
So you don't need to run a train from Port Harcourt to Marigold. You can link Umuahia to that line. Okay. You can link Kefi or Lafia, can link Abuja, and you go to Kano. Are you getting it? So my priority will be just link north to south by the shortest.
It sounds like a no-brainer, really, but quickly as we wind down, we had a conversation about the airports yesterday. We're big on transportation because you need it for business. And, the MD of FAN says a majority of the airports are not viable. Because particularly states now coming up with this airport, that airport.
3 out of 22 are only viable.
So if you were to speak to states, but we also need the rail services within states. We see what Lagos is doing. Well, the FCT is not a state, but we see what could be the possibility in FCT. So Would you advise certain states, to go that route? I see you're chuckling already.
Yeah, because it's not cheap. So we can partner, like we are partnering with Lagos.
Okay.
We are partnering with Plateau. Which other states trying to come in?
What about Rivers? Rivers had something that was.
Rivers had the monorail.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they decided to abandon it.
Yeah.
Because you see, the beauty of a rail, it may not be fast,
right,
but it gets you to point as planned.
Oh, absolutely, and you can always depend on it.
Yes.
So basically, you're saying majority of states are not viable when it comes to entering into railway.
I don't think they have that resources. See, in our previous act, nothing stopped anybody from building rail.
Yeah.
It's just to be guided. So you want to build rail, come. The Nigerian Railway Corporation give you the permission, which whether exclusive for, you must have somebody regulating it.
Yeah. Quite interesting, really, but we have to thank you so much. We need to ensure that the rail service works, it is viable, and it gives us the adequate return. Whether you say it is directly or indirectly, but we need those returns. Okay. But we have to thank you so much.
Thank you. I will say this.
Yeah, quickly.
You are not building your house because you want a return. You are building it because you want the comfort.
It depends. If you're a landlord,
your transportation.
If you're a landlord, you want rent, Mr. Okiria.
Your rent can never recover your landlord. I can take that as a topic. Your rent can never pay.
Okay, I don't know how much I pay for rent.
Let's have this conversation another time.
We will still ask for the money. 2 billion, we're impressed, but it can be better. But 2 billion, we're impressed. It can be better.
People that are benefiting, we are already getting the benefits.
All right, we have to run now. You've been decades in this industry, so we wish you the very best and wish the Railway Corporation the very best. So we're speaking to Mr. Fidel Okiria, who is the MD of the NRC. So when next you hop on a train, this is a man who is...
He's the man responsible.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you and I appreciate Nigerians.
All right. Well, we'll go to break now. When we return, we speak with one of the faces. Well, you don't speak with faces, but we'll find a way around this. One of the faces you love to see on the big screens. Atlanta, that's the clue I'm going to give you. So stay with us right here on The Morning Brief.
Well, she brightens up our screens this morning, as always she does, in your homes. Atlanta, Bridget Johnson, actor and commercial model, joins us on the program. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
So I think the first time I saw her was in Afamefuna. No, yeah. I think I saw a Man of God too.
Yeah.
Man of God was the one where... Yeah, he didn't quite register and all of that. So, there are lots of questions. Let me start with maybe this is a very funny one. When people are light-skinned and all of that, sometimes finding a parent for them in the Nigerian space is quite difficult. So how do you navigate that part?
In terms of...
Like, character you play. So if you're a daughter...
Like finding a parent for you in a movie.
In a movie. Finding a parent for you in the movie.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not up to me to find that. I mean, it's up to the producers and the director. But I think fortunately, there have been a lot of other actors who are older than me who have been able to play, you know, my significant, parents and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I just need to get that out because when we had, I've forgotten her name now, that's the same question we asked because of the space we live in. But there's a lot to you that a lot of people would like to know. So maybe you walk us through where you were born, how you got into acting, where you went to school, and all of that.
Okay, so I was born in Harare, in Zimbabwe, and I have 2 brothers, and we grew up in Ibadan, in Nigeria, and then I left home. I went to South Africa in 2008, 2000. Anyways, we went to boarding school in South Africa, and that's where we were. And after I matriculated, which was grade 12 in the program there, I ended up going to a film acting academy called Acts Cape Town.
Right.
And I trained there as an actor for about 3 years, and then I came back home.
And then you got your first movie, your first role?
Well, when I came back home, it was the year of COVID, and then the next year was when I came to Lagos, and then I met Bola Nelson Peters, and
Wait a minute, you returned in the year of COVID.
Yeah.
What a year to return.
Yeah.
So help us understand, what was your very first movie? How did you land the role, and how did you find, because acting in South Africa, or at least learning to act in South Africa, is definitely a different ball game from acting in Nigeria. Yes, there may be similarities, but obviously the culture, the stories are very different. So how did you find that transition then to landing your major role?
I think because I had spent so many years in South Africa, I was very comfortable being there. But at the back of my mind, I knew that, so when I came back home, I was like, because I wasn't familiar with Nollywood, when I came back, it was a transition that I had to deal with, right? And fortunately for me, when I first got back, I then met someone that is a theater guru, BAP, and I ended up going for a reading for a film that she was producing and whatnot, and I ended up getting that job. So for me, I felt like it was a blessing, and I felt like, in general, I feel like everything just happens for a reason.
It's quite interesting, because some people always say, no one paved the way for me, no one held my hand, but there's a value in having someone to hold your hand, assure you that, don't worry, you'll be fine, because I've been here before, don't worry, I'll probably take some of the arrows for you and shield you as well. So that would be the role of BAP for you.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
For a lot of people wondering, what is BAP? It's Bola Nelson Peters, right? But those who are close to her would call her BAP. But speak to us about what you find, maybe what you found the most shocking about acting in Nigeria. What you found, will I say shocking or funny? Because it's a very interesting space, right? So was there like a shock for you? Maybe did you have to be the actor at one point and do audio at the same time or something? Did you find anything quite shocking? Let me put it that way.
No.
Really?
Actually, no. I didn't find anything shocking. I think, there has been moments where, like, for me, I've always said, be prepared for anything. It doesn't have to be in Nollywood. It could be in South Africa. It could be in the UK. It could be anywhere, But just as an actor and as a professional, be prepared for anything. So if things go wrong on set, the lighting guy doesn't know what he's doing at the moment, or so many things can go wrong on set, and to be professional about it and say, you know what, actually, this is happening, but at the end of the day, we all know why we are here together. It's a collaborative thing, and we need to get this done. So even if that's happening, we can still make it work. So there's nothing that, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that
shakes you.
Yeah, no.
So let's get to Afame for now, which is perhaps one of your most celebrated work. And I'm almost using the word double dating in my head in that whole space. But the reason I say that, because of how the love interest metamorphosed from this person to that person. So it's quite a beautiful movie about industry of an individual, but there was a love kind of triangle in all of that. Walk us through internalizing that role, what it meant to you, because I know you cried, I know you were worried, I know you were protective. It was a layer of things for you.
Okay, so for me, with that role, playing Amaka, till today, Alex Akubo, he will watch this interview.
Maybe you should look at your camera and just be dead.
So it was the first time I worked with Kaide Kasum. We literally, the premiere of his recent film, What About Us, came out last night. So that was where I was.
And you were there?
Yeah, at the premiere. So yeah, so this was the first time that I worked with him, and he's a fantastic director. I worked alongside fantastic actors, and it was the first time that I met Alex Akubo and Stan Nze, and they just so happened to be my love interests in the film. Now, yeah, it was interesting. You didn't really get to know much about my character. You know, it was predominantly based on the boys' relationships and them working under my father. But I mean, yeah, it was a good time. At least I got to meet them, and we got along really well. And yeah.
It's like you're saying things you're not saying. We're listening.
Wait,
so we're just listening too. Just keep talking.
Yeah. So the question was about.
So this is a setup, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me help you navigate this. Let me come out and navigate the setup for you, or maybe channel this another route. How much of what goes on screen spills over to behind the scenes? And that's always a question people have in their minds. So they see the movie. Okay, let me use a typical example. It's a tricky one. So Angelina Jolie, for example, and what's his name? Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah. So they were in a movie, and you saw how the movie went.
Yeah.
I think you know where I'm going with this one. So how much of what plays on scene also spills over to behind the scenes? Is that something you just do you just abandon and say, oh, we're done with the movies, no feelings whatsoever, move on with life, or sometimes that happens?
What sort of feelings?
So I use the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt as an example.
Well, no. I mean, no. For me, you know, every single film that I've been on, and I've had a connection with anyone, on screen, taking it off of sets has been very natural, and not in terms of like anything romantic or anything, but you know, I've actually, if anything, I've met a lot of very beautiful people, beautiful souls on set, talented actors that I am still friends with till today. So, yeah.
So another part of it that I'm asking again is, some people are method actors and all of these elements. So, because we saw you transit from a happy girl to almost a confused person, like, how do I navigate this love interest? How do you conjure that to be able to tell that story? Also be able to feel what you are exuding from screen to us?
Okay, so for me, it's always been, if I'm given a role or a character to play, I don't judge, as confused as the person may be. Because even like with reviews, like when the film came out, people were like, wow, Amaka, this, that, whatnot. But I try to always just, you know, see who this person is and not judge why this person is making these certain choices, regardless of if I don't agree with them. But yeah, for me, it's like, you know, you give me a script and, okay, who is this? What is this about? What's going on? What's the story about? And I'll play along with it. So I don't judge anything.
Okay, so let's talk about you when you're not on set. Maybe we'll link it to what you do on set. You're a big football fan. Do you play football well?
So growing up, yes, I did. Yeah.
So you've been playing for Nigeria, Super Falcons.
If I wasn't an actor, honestly, I think I would have gone into like being a professional football player.
You were that good.
I'm not going to say I'm not that good, but there are people that can say yes that I played well.
Are you being modest right now? Let us know so we can market you to Super Bowl.
I haven't played in ages, and I mean, you know, it's been years, but growing up, yeah, it was something that, it was one of my first loves. Yeah.
Football.
Yes.
Amazing. That's very interesting.
That's very rare.
Okay, I'm not going to get into this, but it's very interesting also to see that you've played very weird characters. Gollum, for example, Lord of the Rings. Please, How did that work? Because I'm trying to picture you as a column.
So that was my final year in high school. It was my final drama. It was like one of the productions that we did where it was like our final exam.
Yeah.
And this was in South Africa.
I know.
And so I chose to do that.
Do you regret it? I can see the
No, not at all. No,
so can you maybe say a line from that?
So not at all. So my dad, my mom, my dad, and a few other like family friends were there. And I remember after like we did it, my dad said something about like, he was very confused. He was like, is this my daughter?
We did this to my daughter, right?
Yeah, but it was, So for me, like, those kind of characters were always what I wanted to, like, delve into. That was my final exam.
Okay, so in closing, what challenges do you face in the industry? You've been here, you're now in that space, you're part of Nollywood now, and one of the known faces. So what are the challenges you face for whatever reason?
I don't really think I'm facing any challenges. If anything, maybe it might be about, getting more, or even me being a producer and getting more scripts and stuff that are a little bit diverse. For maybe a character or something that will be realistic for me to play, But other than that, no, I'm actually, so far so good.
You're like a chill person.
Absolutely. So what are the big projects we should be expecting to see you on? And don't give us all this non-disclosure stuff. Give us something to hold on to today.
In 30
what
seconds.
you'll be looking out for in this year.
Look out for Dust to Dreams, directed by Idris Elba, produced by Mahabudu.
That's this year, right?
It should be out this year, hopefully.
Okay. You've done filming. Have you done filming? Or
we wrapped. Like 3 months ago. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Atlanta. Bridget Johnson, actor and commercial model and producer.
Voiceover actor.
Voiceover actor. What else are we going to add to you?
That's all.
Future Super Falcon striker.
Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so that's it on this very edition of the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.
Hey, do not let anything hold you back. Go out there and make the most of your day. Sunrise Daily is next, by the way, so stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Kikili. Goodbye.